Hello everyone, and welcome back to QPOV. And today we are going to be doing a queer perspective on the play called The Team by Micheal Kras. This is one of the first productions that I've seen of this play. It was opening night. It was really good, and I have a lot to talk about this with The Team. So first I'll give a brief introduction just so people know where the play is coming from. It centers around a girls basketball team that is getting into the finals. They're almost in their final games. They're all going to be graduating high school soon. So there's lots of stuff going on with them as they try to figure out their futures, each of these characters. But there's kind of like a shadow overlaying the whole team because one of the newer players that has just been brought in at the beginning of the play, well into the season, is the character of Bobby, who's played by Lyndon Bradford. They are amazing. They're a non-binary actor who has done a lot of really cool work and was really good in the character of Bobby. But what has happened, as we learn in the play, is that Bobby's brother, who is also a basketball player, isn't around anymore. He has passed away, and it's never really explained why, but it's a big shadow that's covering everyone because since he was such a good basketball player, everyone expects Bobby to be a good basketball player. Everyone wants to be like a good player for the team, and just everyone's pressuring themselves, pressuring others. So it's a play that's really a lot about pressure and what we do to others and how we respond in that manner to all of this weight that's being pressed down on us as we step into a new part of our lives. So that's the message that I got, one of the messages that I got from the team. But what I wanted to talk about most was the actual script itself. And when I say the script, I mean the actual words and the text that the actors were saying and how they used it. And I have to say, it was mind-blowing how good these lines were and how much they spoke, not only in the moment of the scene itself, but to the audience as well. At least as to me as a member of the audience. Lines stood out to me just in the moment. Some are going to stick with me for years because that was one thing that was kind of going something that was reoccurring throughout the whole play itself was the notion of how we use our words. At least that's one thing that could be seen from it, because they're always saying oh, Bobby's really quiet, Bobby doesn't say much, but then Bobby actually does say a lot when she wants to say stuff. She goes out and says it because she gets excited about these kinds of things and wants to talk about it, but she just doesn't because she doesn't want to weird anyone out. She keeps saying oh, I'm being weird, I'm being different and stuff. And for a bit more context, Bobby's character, the character of Bobby, is portrayed as a queer character as well. Someone who's non-binary, conforming, probably it's being told that she's a lesbian as well, who's someone from the LGBTQ community. And the way that she tries to use her words is amazing, because at the end of the play, she's talking, she has this poem that she recites that took a lot. We could see it took a lot just to get to this point, to say this piece of poetry. But those words, Bobby being in that space and talking about fear, about stress, about everything coming down on you and being too scared to do anything about it, just those words made me cry. I was sitting in the audience, tears in my eyes, rolling down my cheeks. I was just because there was honesty and there was directness in those words from someone who can understand that experience. And that's the thing, when you have those words that just connect, that just stick out and speak to you, that's what good writing does. That that can just make you cry even though you don't know why you're crying. You feel them. And there was other things too that I have to bring up about the script. There was this one line, which one character, Miranda, said to Bobby. It was that until you've heard these insults, she lists a bunch of insults that have been thrown at her, like, oh, have you earned your jersey? Like, if you've won, win harder, and stuff like that. Like, all these just little things that got on Miranda's nerves and always pressed Miranda down. She says, if until you've heard that, you cannot talk. And she said these words directly to Bobby, who is not only a queer character, also a queer actor. For those words to be spoken to a queer individual it shows how some people who are cis or straight or don't understand the queer community, like, how they don't see it from our perspective, how they can have the, I'll say, audacity to tell us that we cannot talk, because we have almost never been allowed to talk until recently. Like, it wasn't, like, only in the last half of the century has the queer community tried to speak out and actually tried to get their voice back when it's been continuously silenced. So they picked those words specifically. At least I believe that those words were very specifically chosen to be directed at a character that knew that those words were not true. That if they haven't heard those insults that they cannot talk, they have every right to speak, and they will take ownership of that and say, like, I will make my voice heard no matter how hard it is, no matter how much you don't want to hear it or don't understand where I'm coming from. I live in fear of my own voice. Let me finally say it. And when Bobby does speak, when Bobby loses their temper and finally says enough is enough, what do people do? They listen. And that's what's so important, because for so long, people in the queer community have not been allowed to have a voice, or even if they have been speaking, it's been to people who understand that same voice. But to actually talk to someone who may not immediately understand where you're coming from, that is a terrifying thing to do. But when you do it and people listen, that is a success, and that is something that everyone is, like, striving for. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get you to listen. So please listen, because for so long we've been told that we cannot talk, when we most certainly can talk, and we will talk when it becomes too much, because we've dealt with a lot of stuff. As I've said in all my previous videos, look at all the stuff that we've had to deal with. So don't you dare look at me in the face and say, just because that you've had these things said to you, that I have no right to speak in this situation. So that is why the language of this play is so important, because it was able to do that. It showed that in that exact moment between Miranda and Bobby. That is the discourse that is happening sometimes a lot between a straight community and a queer community, this, like, collision of not understanding and not giving one the chance to speak, because they think that, like, your experience doesn't line up with mine, so how can you have a say? It's like, everyone can have a say, because everyone's coming from really hard places. That was the whole thing of the team. Everyone was coming from really difficult situations, trying to get through. You have one character who's dealing with a father who is constantly bearing down on her, telling, oh, you should do better, you should do better. So that's a lot of pressure. Bobby has lost her brother. Other characters like Alicia are under pressure from her mom to get into school, to eat properly and stuff like that. Like Jen, one other character, is being pressured to get into university but cannot. So they're all coming from very stressful situations and meeting in the middle, and sometimes it's not clicking, which is why people think no one ever understands. This is why people lose their temper and, like, make toxic environments, is because we're all coming in with baggage. And no one's recognizing that baggage. That was another thing that was brought up in the script, was a line that we leave our baggage at the door. We enter the gym, we leave things at the door. That was like the gist of another line of the play. And that's the thing. Who gets to leave it at the door? If a queer person is walking into a space, they can't just leave everything behind. You can't leave the queer behind. You can't, because that's a part of a person. You can't leave your straight behind as much as you can't leave your body behind. Because when someone is queer, when someone is straight, that is their body. That is them. You can't say leave it at the door when you're constantly judging them because of that. You judge someone for being queer when you say leave everything at the door. They can't leave it at the door. So like, it's all of this stuff, like, in a situation, who is getting the say? Who has the voice? Who finally gets the voice? Because in the end, Bobby says their poem. She recites her poem and lets her voice be heard, and takes that shot. She takes that shot, and we all applaud her for it because we know that it's hard. So that's why I think this play is so important, because it was able to do that. It talked about giving people voices, because so long people are told to just deal with it, because everything compared to everything else is no big deal. We're always told, oh, it's no big deal, we'll get through it. Well, getting through it is hard, so let us talk about it before it becomes toxic. And that is what the team did. It not only showed the tensions between communities where someone's not getting a voice, like the queer community, how the queer community doesn't always get a voice, and when they do, it's looked on as weird and different, and a lot of people don't understand it, so they dismiss it. But when they finally do get a chance to speak, they make a valid point, because they're coming from a perspective no one else may have seen, which is why so many perspectives are important. So that's the team. It's a bunch of people trying to come together with all this baggage, and even if in the story it might not have worked out, in the play it might not have worked out, where all this baggage came in and it just fell apart, but it's showing hope for that. It's showing hope that all this baggage can come together and people can deal with it together, because that's what a team is. A team is coming together, no matter the baggage, experience, or background, and being able to work together and support each other and not make it toxic, letting others' voices be heard. That is what the team is, and that is why it relates so much to the queer perspective and benefits from a queer perspective, as I've said. So I hope you guys get a chance to see this play. It is so good. It's The Team by Micheal Kras. It's playing at the First Performing Arts Center in St. Catharines. Please go see it if you can. Support it, because if you want a voice to be heard, take that shot on the team. Do it. Thank you so much for watching. See ya.